time to call your lawyer.
That's right. We make a phone call to our lawyer friend, who's also a friend and lawyer, Bruce L. Scheiner, attorney for the injured, and ask questions that, generally speaking, have been submitted by you. Today's slightly different spin. Still questions, but on the other hand, as I was looking through the questions the other day, there were many that seemed to have a common theme or a common thread. And so it seemed like a good idea if we could have a conversation with Bruce on, instead of specific case-by-case incidents and fact patterns, instead have a general conversation about insurance that I think would clear up a lot of this for a lot of people. So we'll get started here in a second, but first I need to remind you that on the Ask the Lawyer segment, you cannot take what you're about to hear as specific legal advice in your specific situation. You've got to sit down in front of a professional and get specific advice for yourself. And many attorneys, frankly, they offer a free consultation. I know Bruce L. Scheiner and Associates certainly do. So don't take this as specific in your case. Instead, get a professional consultation. This much we can tell you. Don't make any statements. Don't let any conversations be recorded. And don't sign anything until you see an attorney, a professional. Bruce L. Scheiner and Associates would be a good idea. Free consultations, take advantage of that. All right, Bruce, thank you so much for joining us once again this week at Kicks Country 92.9. And good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Todd. How are you this morning?
Doing fine, thank you, sir. And how are you?
Oh, I'm doing very well.
You know, most of these Wednesday mornings, we have a question to present to you. And it occurred to me the other day, so often we're talking about insurance issues that maybe this is something we should have a conversation just about insurance. I know as a layperson, it confuses the heck out of me, and I'm sure I'm not alone with that. You are somebody who deals with insurance as an attorney every single day of your life and career. So if it's okay with you, we'd like to have a conversation about the basics of insurance.
I'm happy to do that, and it's still confusing to me, but we have to deal with it every day.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a bit of a shifting sand situation. In other words, the landscape changes, the law changes, and you've got to stay right on top of all that stuff, don't you?
That's correct, and the court cases come down and decide, questions of law regarding insurance coverage.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's start with car insurance, Bruce, and let's start with the very basics. If you go out today and you buy your first car, the first thing you're going to have to decide upon is insurance coverage. And the question is going to come up, how much insurance coverage would you like? And then there's also, to figure into that, what the state of Florida requires. How do you figure out what you should be carrying?
Well, the first maximum that I would tell anybody who's questioning how much insurance they should carry, I very, very strongly urge them to carry the maximum amount that they could afford.
Okay.
And it's critical when they go down the different coverages that they make sure that they have uninsured motorist coverage in the amount of the liability coverage that they have selected, number one. And number two, it's very, very, very important that they select the stacking form of uninsured motorists.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the insurance agent will normally try to encourage someone to select the non-stacking form of uninsured motorist. But they do that because it is a little less expensive, but you're giving up a tremendous amount of rights to save a small amount of money.
What is the difference between stacking and non-stacking?
Okay, here's the best example. Stacking insurance says that you could stack or add up the insurance on each car if you're entitled to use your uninsured motorist coverage. So say that Todd has 3 cars at home.
Okay.
Each one of them insured, and he has $300,000 of liability coverage.
All right.
So if you get the stacking form of uninsured motorist coverage, you would be entitled to $300,000 over $900,000 of uninsured motorist coverage.
Okay.
And what that means, 300 over 900, let's say that you and your wife and 2 children are in the car, you have 300,000 for any one person's injuries and 900,000 for all the people together in the car. I'll give you an example in it.
Good.
Just today, a client called and said, Mr. Scheiner, I was really hurt very significantly in my accident. Why can I only recover $125,000? And I said, Madam Client, the at-fault carried $300,000 of insurance. Unfortunately, when you made a selection to purchase uninsured motorist coverage, you only selected $25,000 worth of coverage. If you had selected the same amount as the at-fault had selected, we could have recovered $200,000 for you.
I see.
Or if you had decided that you wanted $250,000 of uninsured motorist coverage, we would have been able to recover a total of $350,000 of insurance. This lady was very, very fortunate because the average driver in Florida is running around with either $10,000 of bodily injury liability limits or no bodily injury liability limits. So in that case, your uninsured motorist coverage is critical. And that's why I emphasize that you should get the maximum amount that you possibly could afford, and you should make sure that it's stacking.
All right. Well, I think this has given us a much better overview of the basics of insurance. As we go through our week-by-week conversation, it's sort of like a baseline to kind of build from here.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I'm going to look forward to our next telephone conversation.
Sounds good, Bruce. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you next week.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for Bruce L. Scheiner. And I have to say, I hope that really does answer a bunch of questions at once. It's hard to combine 5 or 6 different questions into one, but they were all about the uninsured motorist or underinsured motorist part of the insurance process, and definitely needed to be answered. Now, if you'd like to submit a question for future consideration, all you have to do is go to our website and look for Bruce L. Scheiner on the homepage at kickscountry929.com, or put Bruce in the keyword search box. And if you'd like a consultation right away, which is highly recommended, call him in his Port Charlotte office, 941-743-7777. Bruce L. Scheiner and Associates at 941-743-7777. Don't let anyone take away your rights. Don't accidentally give away your rights. Speak to a professional first. Find out how to protect yourself and your interests by calling Bruce L. Scheiner and Associates. Tell him that Todd Matthews sent you from Kicks Country 92.9.